I need y'all to channel me on this. Yeah, T Swift on the track. Peace Queen.
Peace King.
Peace Queen.
Peace King.
Peace Queen.
Peace King.
Peace Queen.
Peace King.
Hotep Queen.
Hotep King.
Hotep Queen. Yeah.
Hotep King.
Yo, what's going on, Peace family? I don't know what time it is in the States out there right now, but we definitely wanted to make sure we got this message out. Ask the Most High for the wisdom and the energy to channel this message into my people, and hope that this message really resonates with you guys, and that you guys are able to pass along the message and share it within the conscious community, so we can really put this to rest and lay a plan to really start to build with our people. If there was ever a time in history for our people to uprise and build, I perceive that time to be now. So it is of the utmost importance that we share this information. Now, I titled this section of the lecture Moors versus Blacks for a reason, so you guys can really start to see the breakdown and understand that there is no difference between the two movements. And only through miseducation or misinformation are we stuck in neutral. And I believe we've been stuck in neutral on both sides, within the Black Power or Black consciousness or Kemetic consciousness or African consciousness or Moorish science or following, within the movement of Noble Drew Ali. Both movements are stuck in neutral right now. And I believe that is because of the lack of information and us not joining together and understanding that the two movements are not separated, but they are indeed one. And I set out to prove that today. All right, first things first, we're going to start with slavery. But before you can start to understand slavery, you have to understand that everything you've been told about slavery is a lie. Many of our people think that their ancestors were brought here to pick cotton, and that's how slavery pretty much went. Well, if you believe that, then you're still under the sorcery. But I won't go into that in detail. What I will touch on is slaves and property, and how the owners and the slave masters used to claim property. First things first, in order for the owners to claim properties, what they did is they brand their slaves. How did they do that? Well, many of the slaves carried the slave owner's name. This is still being done today. Many of you guys think you're free and conscious, but you still carry the names of the slave owners. It doesn't make any sense. So for you to sit here and say we're free and we're conscious, and you're still claiming the names of your slave owners, you have names like Smith, Jenkins, Jacksons, and I don't care if you change your name online. If you have ID or identification, or if you have any identification with any slave name, then you are still part of the system or the corporation or the slavery that the people are under. You're still part of the sorcery. And until you can break free from that sorcery, we can't really start to build. Next, now when the Black Panther Party in the struggle in the 60s, there were two parts to the movement. One was the education and the consciousness awareness of our people, and two, the second part was a law part. Now, so many Black Panthers or Black Power movement groups, they never talk about this. They leave this out as if somehow Bobby had a separate agenda from Huey. No, Huey P. Newton's movement during the Black Power struggle had to do with law, and it was educating the people on law. This is what led up to the success of the Black Panther Party movement, because they knew quote unquote law. The only problem with this movement at the time was they understood a little bit about law, but they didn't know Moorish law. Why is Moorish law important? Because if you don't understand Moorish law, then you're not understanding where it came from. You need to know law from the standpoints of a Moor and how these laws apply to you.
Hey, yo, come out here! The police! It's brothers with guns! Get some backup! Get the hell out of here! Get out of here! So, Huey, so what's your telephone number?
Well, I confirm with you my address. That's all I'm required by California law to do. He ain't broken no law.
Then what are you doing with that gun?
Well, what are you doing with yours?
Let me see that rifle, son.
No. This is my private property. According to California law, We got a constitutional right to bear arms.
Hey, move along. Go on about your business.
Wait, brothers and sisters, no. You ain't gotta go nowhere. This is your business. Stay right here. The law says, as long as you stand a reasonable distance, that's 8 to 10 feet to be exact, you got a right to observe the police carrying out their duties. From what I can see, you're standing 22 feet away from this man. So, brothers, ain't no law being broken.
That's right. You stay right where you are. You ain't got to go nowhere.
Temporary protest. Learn about the Black Panther Party.
Is that gun loaded, boy?
Fish and game law clearly states it's unlawful to carry a live round of ammunition in the chamber of a shotgun or rifle in a vehicle. Pig.
Refer to him as officer.
Then don't you refer to him as boy.
Well, is it loaded?
I tell you, officer, it wasn't, but now it is.
Ooh, them's a badass nigga. Now, for the last time, boy, what do those guns mean?
They mean, pig, that the Black Panther Party declares you try to brutalize our community, you try to take our weapons. We'll shoot you, man.
Back.
Jesus, I think I done died and gone to heaven.
All right, now, hold on. Put it down, man. Tell me what's going on. Brother had his rifle up like this. Called the police a pig. Police couldn't do nothing. Brother was speaking all kind of law shit. Man, laws, got this here 10-point program. Man, these brothers wasn't scared of shit. Police couldn't do a damn thing. You ain't never seen nothing like it. Brothers in leather jackets and berets.
You're out of line. Move, idiot. No, step back.
This man assaulted me. Arrest this man.
If I'm to arrest anyone, it's gonna be you.
Oh, not today.
Huey, come on, man, please. Lower the guns, man. We don't want no trouble.
That's right. Put the guns away. Just a smart nigger like your friend.
We ain't broken no law. You try to violate our constitutional rights, we will defend ourselves. Pig!
Aren't you gonna do anything? Like you said, asshole, they're not breaking any laws. All right, step out!
Right. Step back, folks. Step back.
We go ahead and call it in.
In America, black people are treated very much as the Vietnamese people or any other colonized people because we're brutalized. The police in our community occupy our area, our community as a foreign troop occupies territory. And the police are there not to, in our community, not to promote our welfare or for our security and our safety, but they're there to contain us, to brutalize us and murder us because they have their orders to do so. And just as the soldiers in Vietnam have their orders to destroy the Vietnamese people, the police in our community couldn't possibly be there to protect our property because we own no property. They couldn't possibly be there to see that we receive the due process of law for the simple reason that the police themselves deny us the due process of law. And so it's very apparent that the police are only in our community, not for our security, but the security of the business owners in the community, and also to see that the status quo is kept intact. When we first started, we had a police alert patrol, and we would patrol the community. If we saw the police brutalize anyone, we would put an end to this. Usually the police wouldn't brutalize anyone if we were on hand because we were armed, and if the police arrested the individual, we'd follow him to the jail and bail the individual out, whether he was a Panther or not. And we would gain many recruits like this. So therefore the community started to say that, well, these people are really concerned about our welfare.
Yo, peace, family. The second part of this has to do with addressing the Moors and the movement that Noble Drew Ali set up for the people like Elijah Muhammad and Fraud Muhammad, for them to come out of the Science Temple and be successful with the movement that they've started, and for the Moor Science Temple movement to be stuck in neutral. You really have to start addressing the disconnection from what Noble Drew Ali started to where the movement is now. There is a disconnection because Noble Drew Ali was on the ground with his movement. He had people in the temple left and right, and there was a rallying cry behind the movement. I mean, many of the leaders that you know of today came out of that movement. So for us to look back or be in a worse position than he was really means that the movement is stuck in neutral. So we got to address that. You have to adapt. You have to adapt to the people to make sure the messages are hitting the people, not so much as just turning their shoulder because they don't understand anything. You know what I mean? Because they don't understand law. I think if the message was presented to them right, they would understand why law is so important, and because there is no separation from the Black Power movement and the Moorish Science Temple movement. People like Huey P. Newton always stressed the importance of learning law. The only problem is we didn't focus on the correct law. It was learning European law when we should have been learning the law, the people that taught the Europeans, which is Moorish law and Moorish science. If we would have had this information then, we would have really started to see a shift in power and control. So we need to put the power and the law back in the hands of the people by all means, but we need to do it as a group. It can't be two groups. The movements must come together, and the rallying cry for that is consciousness. Now we can sit here and debate about doctrine or origins or any of that stuff, but when worse comes to worse, the movements have one thing in common. Each movement wants to resonate with consciousness. They want the people to become conscious. So let's rally behind that and let's manifest that into existence. I'm going to be giving out information to where we really set a plan to start to do some of the things that we're talking about.